hummus? Got hummus in my teeth before I do this video? Hummus check. 1, 2. Psych! Alright, let's talk about how to live a creative life on your terms. This video will probably be more for people that don't consider themselves creative. So to start off, for me to explain to you how to live a more creative life on your terms, let's look at the meaning of what creativity means. So for you to create a new, for you to shift your perspective on anything, first you're going to have to redefine what that means to you. So until you can redefine and take a look at something from a different perspective, it's going to be hard for you to be inspired to shift something. All right, so let's redefine what creativity means. And for me, what creativity means is it's just energy that's expressive. So the art of creativity is the art of, from an individual, it would be self-expressive. So living a life on your terms would be on your own terms. Living a life by design would be living a life fully expressed. And when we look at that word creativity, what creativity really truly means is create. That's the root source of creativity. So if you don't think you're creative, because often we think that we're not creative because we're not artsy, or we're not, a real expressive, outgoing individual or whatnot, or we didn't go to art school. But I'm here to tell you, I'm here to give you permission so that you can connect the dots that you are actually a creative, that it is your birthright to create. And what that means is that you're always creating something, unconsciously or consciously. Right now, you're creating something. You're creating something by the state of mind that you're sitting in. You're creating something by the patterns, the habits, the rituals, the decisions, your behavior. All of that is interconnecting on the life that you're creating. So you're creating no matter what, and that makes you a creative. Now, living life on your terms, living a purposeful, meaningful life that you're designing, all it means is that you're more conscious and aware of what type of life you're living and stepping into and creating every single day. So that's right. So you're going to have to understand and take ownership of the fact that you are creating your own life, and you are creating, and that you are powerful. So if you don't connect and grasp that concept that you are a creative source, that you are a creative spirit, that you have the birthright and the power to create things versus the opposite. So this is a more empowering, inspired individual, someone that acknowledges like, hey, I can, if I connect the disciplines, the habits, and the rituals, I can, control, my weight, or that's just one area, right? If we're looking at nutrition and improving our health and our wellness, or, if I really focus, I'm probably going I could see some shifts and changes, right? So acknowledging that you are a creative person is first the number one step to getting us to a more conscious and aware, empowered state that allows us to create, to live our own life on our own terms, right? So when I say live a life on our own terms, it means on how you want to live. And to be able to step into that, you're going to have to ask yourself, how do I want to live? What type of life do I want to live? What do I want in my life? What do I not want in my life? All right. So that's more of the personal, technical mechanics and inner workings of designing your life, right? You're going to have to ask those really difficult questions and really ask yourself what you want your life to look like, so that then you could start to connect the dots and start aspiring and connecting all those tasks that you must accomplish to be able to step into that. All right. So now that you understand that you are creative and it is your birthright to create, because either whether you like it or not, you are creating your own life. You are creating everything from a spiritual, energetic perspective. All right. Like the habits, the rituals, the relationships that you have, everything, all the patterns of everything that you do, whether it's you being productive or fruitful, you are creating it. It's all connecting. Your consciousness and awareness of everything is what is actually attracting and creating circumstance. All right. So the circumstances, the junctures of the crossroads, and the relationships and opportunities, setbacks, blessings, good, bad, dark, light, all that is coming from your consciousness, from your awareness, from the very being that you are. All right. So until you grasp that concept and understand, like, oh shit, who am I? Who am I being? What am I carrying? What am I holding inside? What's truly in there? That's going to affect the vibe that you put out. That's going to affect the energy of how you, the beat that you walk in life every single day, right? So let's not go there. I digress. All right. So now that you are more enlightened to what being a creative, expressive individual means, let's talk about the opposite of that. So as a consultant, I understand the power of creating a polarizing understanding of what we are versus what we're not. So in this aspect, let's look at when we're not being creative, what are we? When we're not being creative and when we're not being intentional about, hey, what do I want my day to look like? What do I want to accomplish this month? What do I want to create this year? What's significant? What's priority? And when you don't have a hierarchy of what you want to accomplish and what's meaningful to you, then you can't live with intention. And living with intention, to be like an artist, to be a creative spirit, you got to be able to see potential in yourself and your life. So think of as a blank canvas, right? Your life is the canvas. And a creative individual says, okay, here's a canvas, but I have a vision. I can see some mountains here. I can see a horizon. Maybe the colors are going to be real warm from the dawn, or maybe colorful from the spring, right? So you got to have the imagination and vision, even though there's blank. So that's what a visionary is a visionary, a creative, expressive individual, whether it's someone in business or someone that just wants to take ownership of a fruitful, fun life. A visionary is someone that can see what others can't. And until you can start to see something that others can't, you won't be able to fully step into a meaningful, purposefully expressed life. So first you got to be able to acknowledge and understand and have the willingness to want to put something on canvas and understand that this life is your canvas. This life is your script. You're the director. All right. So this is a more empowering role. Like this is a serious conversation of, yo, I'm the director. I get to compose this masterpiece of this music called my life. All right, so this is a boss attitude. And this boss attitude of, hey, yo, I'm going to take control of my destiny. I'm going to take control of my finances, of my spirituality, of my health, or whatever aspect of life that you want to reinforce and elevate. All right? And for you to be able to see this canvas and say, all right, I can see that. I can see a different person, a more expressive, magnetic person, right? A more intentional leader. I can see that for myself. So I'm going to step into it. But first you got to see it. All right. And so that's how a creative thinks. But the opposite of that is someone that is a very limiting perspective that can't see themselves from a greater, higher, constructive perspective. And that individual has no other option but to numb the pain or try to superficially fill what voids they have inside, right? Because there's a lack of. All right, so I know we're talking about being creative, but somehow this is a conversation of abundance, right? When we're creative and we could see potential, what could be, what will be, what is, what shall be, what for ourselves, for someone else, when we're in this creative mode, that's a very abundant, positive, uplifting state of mind. Versus the very opposite of that is a very limiting, shallow, small thinking, consuming energy. So this consuming energy, what it does is just it erodes and it thinks small and it contracts, right? So it hides and it's timid for whatever complex reason. Where think of creative energy as expressive, as just boom. It's there's kinetic. There's potential to creativity, right? So you could see it in someone and sense it in someone. We're like, yo, that person's going somewhere. Versus someone that might not be expressive. And I'm not saying that you have to be expressive and might not be in your personality. But what I'm saying is you need to be aware of where you're at in that spectrum of creating versus consuming. And that's what I want to touch on right now is it's healthy to consume. And let me define what consuming means in this context. Consuming is everything that we're observing, watching, and intaking, which is all healthy, right? Whether we're consuming negative or positive things, whether it be the news, we consume the news. We consume when we observe and watch people. We consume when we're being entertained, movies. We consume when we're reading, right? So that's all consuming. It's information that's going in, which could be constructive or negative. But we're not truly growing when we consume. We're not truly growing. It's just we're adding information and data, which is critical for us to connect the dots and enlighten and see things, right? And expand our mind. It's very critical, but you need to make sure that you're creating more than you're consuming. What does that mean? That means that you need to value more of inspired action of what you're doing, and you need to value more of the majority of the day needs to be creating versus consuming, right? So when we're in this consuming lower frequency energy, I would say we're following others, we're observing others, perhaps even comparing ourselves to others, and just kind of judging and criticizing, and we're just stuck in this limiting view of being a spectator. And we're just watching everybody accomplish things, we're watching the game, and we're just more comfortable from the stands, from the bleachers, in this spectator role, in this critic view, versus actually saying, hey, you know what, I'm done watching the game, I'm gonna go play the game, I'm gonna get in the game, and I'm gonna be a player, right? So now you're actually creating and playing, and that's where you're actually getting feedback. So this is when you become a creative, wise individual. And wise people, creative people, are actually learning from their mistakes, right? So when you're in the game, you're learning, you're getting constant feedback, data of, wow, I fucked up. This is how I should, whether it be sport or life, or you're attempting, achieving, and actually exercising some sort of action, right? Or you're involved in some sort of endeavor that requires an investment or a plan or action. And whether you win or lose, you're getting feedback and you're learning. So you're kind of 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, and all this data is connecting. You're connecting dots. So this is a more 3-dimensional, interesting individual when you're actually in the game. Versus when you're a spectator, when you're playing the spectator role, then all you could do is just, it's dope. Maybe you read books, watch movies, and be entertained, and you're just looking to numb the pain, perhaps, or it's easier for you to watch versus you just get in the game, right? So now you're not living life on your terms, on your own terms. That's not an empowering role. So we want to make sure that we're in a creative role. We want to look at ourselves as a creator, right? So a creator of our song, our canvas, our life, our music, versus this consuming role. All right, so enough on that. And what that's going to do is that's going to make you a more inspired individual, because now when you're in the game, you can understand, get feedback, and understand what is it that inspires you. Because remember, if you're watching up to this point, we talked about being a creative person. You have to first see potential, and you have to have some sort of a vision before you start, or some sort of inspiration before you start a project. Something compels you to create and to want to paint or express, to make music, or to create a shift in your life. So that perspective of I think I see something, that's inspiration, right? And we become inspired based off of what we want from our life. So now that you're living more inspired, you see life from a more inspired role, then you can take what's called inspired action. And when you take inspired action, it's not about waiting, hesitation, doubt. See, so this consuming role that is very limiting, and when we're timid and scared and we don't go for it, right? So a person that's not creative is someone that just doesn't go for their dreams, someone that just doesn't take a leap. Why? Because they're probably waiting for something. They're waiting for the perfect moment. They're waiting for a certain title. They're waiting for validation. They're waiting for the world to say, now is the chance. Versus a creative individual is say, fuck that. Today's the day. Today's all I have, and I must go be it. And it doesn't matter. I'm not going to wait till I get paid, till I have this, till all that. It's basically a creative person makes no excuses. It says, I don't have the resources. I don't care. I'm going to go be a creative person. I'm going to go be a badass. I'm going to go do A, B, and C. and I'm going to find the means. Right? So that's the real difference between a creative person and someone that just consumes. Because when you just consume, you have no choice but just to hide and contract and live life kind of like just, you're watching everybody else live their life. And so you can only compare and judge, and that just erodes self-esteem, and confidence doesn't live in that consumption role when we just consume. Confidence comes from wisdom, experience, falling and understanding and sensing your own power. And that's why a creative person is someone that's always seeking to learn, to grow. A creative person is someone that really values data and information. And they value, what dots am I connecting? Because that's what's going to add value and significance and meaning to my life. And so that's how a creative person thinks. All right. So now that you understand inspired action and you understand the difference between a creative person and someone that just consumes and observes. So it's important to consume and stay inspired and read books and watch movies and understand, current culture and there's a certain purpose that consuming plays in a creative person to gather inspiration, to seek it. But what I'm here to tell you and give you permission to do is make sure that you're creating more than you're consuming. Meaning that make sure that the majority of your year, make sure that the majority of your day is actually filled out living, right? There's a difference between reading a book and wanting to be more intelligent. And there's a difference between reading a book about travels versus going out and doing it and just camping locally, right? There's a difference between watching a movie about your favorite sport or actually going and playing the fucking sport. So I want you to understand, like, hey, it's dope to consume and be inspired, but don't live your life waiting for the perfect moment for you to have, or for the world to tell you something, or don't go live your life today, right now. So this kind of it's funny, we're talking about creativity, but really underneath all this is, you have the power to be who you want to be right now. And you don't need to wait for anyone or wait for you to be in a certain economical status or relationships. That none of that matters. It's who are you being right now? It's the beingness that's going to snowball up to creating the life that you truly want to live, and having the courage to go for it, no matter how small the resources may be, or however small you have to start out with, right? If you want to be an artist and create big murals, well, you're waiting for that big mural opportunity, but you're not even painting a canvas that's 2x2, then you're waiting for that perfect moment. It's never going to happen. You have to create it. So that's right, D Savages, be here now. Right? So, yeah, maybe you only have the space and the resources to create a 2x2 canvas, right? But you can create that 2x2 canvas thinking that someday I'll be creating murals, right? So now you're thinking big. So it doesn't matter. It's just like when you're dipping in a whoopty and you're just like, I know my car is old and it's a fucking bucket, but Tupac used to say, but I'm riding it like it's a Benz. So it's just like, it's the state of mind that truly matters. And eventually you'll get in that Benz or whatever, right? So it's visualization, it's imagination, and make sure that the majority of your day, because you never know, this could be our last day, is filled actually living life, right? And now that we're living life, we have a responsibility. And we need to say, hey, are we living a productive life? Or are we living a fruitful life? And a productive life is when, one of my mentors shared this with me, a productive life is when we're checking off lists, and it's important to be productive. So you see the pattern here that I'm illustrating is, hey, we have to understand a balance, because we can't not live a responsible life, right? We have to be productive. We have to have lists. We have to check off priorities. We have to have a mental hierarchy of what is important in our life to live a responsible, accountable life, right? But what I'm saying is that make sure that you're living fruitfully, meaning that every single day you're planting seeds and you're living life with intention, meaning are the activities that you're doing today, are they connected to something that you're trying to create in the near future, in the long future, in the long-term future? So that's fruitful living. Is when you're doing something and other people may not understand why you're doing it, but you're like, nah, see, I'm working on the stepping stones to leverage what I want to create in my life. And I don't have to explain it to anybody. But ultimately, over the years, as you start to connect the dots with your courage and your action and you're working things out, it's like chess. It's strategy. You're a dynamic visual thinker. now you start to live every single day with intention, and you're not just being pulled by the world. Because that's what we do when we consume and we're not aware of how powerful we can be when we're consciously creating a life of our own. When you don't know what you stand for, someone else is going to tell you what you stand for. When you don't have a vision, someone else is going to give you a vision, and someone else is going to enroll you into their vision. And they're going to say, hey, you know what, young son, grasshopper, I see that you're really talented. And they're going to enroll you, and they're going to tell you who you are, and they're going to somehow ravel you up and tell you, hey, come work for me, come do this, and I'm going to get you here, right? It's because, and there's nothing wrong with that, being mentored, but other people that have a big vision, that have a bigger vision than you, they're going to pull you, and they're going to help them create their vision. All right, so that's not good or bad, but I'm just telling you, if you don't have a strong vision, eventually you're going to help other people build their vision. All right, so that's what being a boss means. That's what being like fully intentional, creative, purposeful life means. It means, I got my plans, I got my life, I know what I want, and I'm going to chip away at it. It might take me some time, but I'm certainly, every single hour, day, week, year, month, it's calculated. I'm a calculated person, and I want to create order and structure so that at the end of the race, or at the end of the year or the month, whatever, like, I'm laddering up to create what I want to create, to fulfill what I deem is worthy of living up to, what I find important. And to wrap this up, you're going to have to be connected to your morals, to your values, to your principles, so that you could say, okay, the life that I want to live, it's in line and congruent with my values and my principles. Should you be a spiritual person, then hey, are you living up to, are you serving God? Are you living through your gifts? Is it important for you to serve others? Is service, so if you're a spiritual person or whatever, or if leadership and communication is important, it's like, hey, are you being the best communicator and leader that you can be every single day? Or are you waiting for that perfect opportunity? All right, so it depends. Like, once you're connected with self, then you can start to plan out and design a life that adds up and mirrors up and levels up to what you know you're worthy of, right? And that's very personal. So now that we're looking at living on your terms, you'll be in this, life is now a playground, because that's how creative thinks. A creative is like, life is beautiful because it's just a playground of expression, fulfillment, meaning, art, music, service, people, connection. And now there's a very human component of playfulness. And so what we're doing when we're living a more expressive, fulfilled, playful, meaningful life is we're just reverting back to how you used to be when you were a child. Because children are like, they don't give a fuck they don't know about the media, about the news, about war, about politics, economics. Like, a child doesn't know that. So a child has not been tainted with the plans and the agendas of this world. And they don't have an image of themselves yet, right? A child is just like, I want to play, express, sing, dance, and enjoy. And I just want your presence and affection, like that's what a child seeks, affection. A child just thinks as a human, right? It's just like, I just want to connect with my mother and my father and be present and be appreciated and be loved and be wanted and attention and connection, like, and playfulness and dance and then sleep and do it all over again the next day. So that's what a child thinks like. So that's how I'm going to end this video. When you see another brilliant, bright child, be inspired by children because of how little they know about this world and how pure their heart and their soul is, and aspire to be more like children. And that's what I learned about traveling. The most freest children, the most funnest children were the ones that were just running out, and maybe they were not as blessed financially, but I found more inspiration from children because just how free and playful and expressive they were. And I'm like, I want to be like that. So that, I guess that's part of the youthfulness and when someone's full of life. So being a creative is just someone that's full of life. And what life is it's sustainable, it's enjoyable, it's a circle, the circle of life, and it's self-sustaining, right? And so it just holds itself up, and something that adds life, it literally adds life. It's expressive, it's It's connected to all that is, versus consuming, it just destroys itself, right? So you may associate that. I associate the consuming, whether it's a vice or just things that don't connect us to our greater self. It's like, that's the evil, that's the negative. Where the positive is life, where it just adds life, more vigor, vitality, energy. All right, so that's how I'm going to end it. I took some notes here with something else that I wanted to express. Yeah, that's it. Life is your canvas. So that's the point. That's the note that I took, is I wanted to express, life is your canvas, and you're creative, and you get to illustrate it. All right, so you are now the director. You write the script to your life. You are the artist. What do you want to create? You might have to take a couple of days off. You might have to reflect on that this weekend. You might have to get a journal. You might have to read some new books. You might have to get out of your routine. You might have to go travel and unplug and say, fuck you to a bunch of people, and just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to do me right now. I'm going to reinvent myself. I'm going to go take a break, come back all new, and whatever. If you have to rename yourself, do it. So you are the artist. I'm giving Prism's giving you permission. All right. I hope you enjoyed it. Appreciate it. Like, comment if you relate to this. Help me out. Let's get this message out. Peace.